Hi, everyone. I'm Paul with Madcap Software. Welcome to this video series on micro content in Madcap Flare, which just happens to be my favorite feature in Flare. So I'm happy to be here to tell you all about it because I really like it. Now, even if micro content, if that doesn't sound familiar to you, I can almost guarantee you already know what micro content is. Micro content is short, concise information that's right there. It's right there just when you need it. And the reason I know that you already know what this is because everybody uses Google or a search engine. And so probably within the last hour or last day, you've experienced micro content. So let me just show you really quickly what I'm talking about to illustrate this. You go onto Google, you look for something, how to change a tire. Oops. Right? Micro content right there, steps at the top. This is called a featured snippet in search results. And you come down and then you get your search results and there's more micro content. Here's some videos. You come down, here's more micro content. People also ask some FAQs in here, but it takes many different forms. Let's do French Revolution. All right. More micro content just looks differently. It's over here on the right. And the content that you're searching for, the format that it's presented in, it depends on what you're searching for. And so this fits very well. French Revolution, a lot to talk about. So they have this thing over here called a knowledge graph or a knowledge panel. All right. And then you also have FAQs and more videos. And let's look at another one, Mother's Day. And it gives you the date right at the top, and then another knowledge panel, and there's more stuff down here, stories, all this micro content, even tiny little bits of micro content, HTML right here, another little featured snippet right at the top. So you see micro content all the time. You just didn't know that's what it was called. I don't want to give you the idea that it's just what you see in search engines in Google, because there's other uses for micro content. And that's where we're going to start. What are the different ways you could use micro content? So we created this graphic to show you what's going on here. Micro content in Flare. All right. So it actually all begins within Flare. You create phrases, and these phrases have corresponding responses, right? So a phrase might be something that you search on or ask, and then the response is, okay, here's the actual content. So you create these phrases and responses, but then there's all kinds of things you can do with those. And let's look down here at these boxes. So featured snippets and search results. I showed you that at the top of the page. For example, that set of steps there on changing a tire. You can do that. Knowledge panel in search results. So space off, you saw it off to the right when I showed you French Revolution. You can do that in your search results. Dynamic knowledge content in topics or search results. Okay, so this is really just another way to present the information. It's a little bit more advanced. These two things over here on the left are pretty easy, basic things to implement. And then this takes a few more steps, but is very versatile. And so you can put this output, this micro content in various places. It can be in your search results. It can be within topics. It could be on the left, the right, the top. Knowledge content, you think about information about things and people and, all kinds of things, really. I just don't want to limit it because it could be just about anything. Dynamic promotion content in topics or search results. So that's similar to the other one. This is sort of designed for promotional content. That's its intent. So this has the same characteristics as the other, but it's random. Things could pop up one time, and the next time something else pops up. FAQs and other static content in topics. So FAQs, you're going to see, we're going to talk about this thing called an FAQ proxy, just like this is a knowledge proxy. This is a promotion proxy. These are FAQ proxies. Now, these are static, though, which means they're compiled before the end user interacts with it. It's at build time when you build your output and you put this stuff in topics. So it can be used for FAQs, frequently asked questions, kind of like what you saw in the Google search results, but it's designed to be in topic output, not search output. Don't worry though, you can still do FAQs in the search results, and I'll show you how a little later. Field level help. So you have a software application, and it's got lots of fields and UI elements, and you might need to explain to somebody what a specific field does because it looks kind of complex, and you can tie help to context-sensitive help to your micro content so that it just kind of pops up, and there's information on this little thing. It's little, short, concise information at the moment when you need it right there for that field. Then there's more advanced things like chatbots and machine learning. You could do that. Flare is going to help you create the micro content for it, and then you would need to use something outside of Flare to actually implement your chatbots or machine learning. You see all these icons at the bottom of these boxes. That means you can pretty much do the whole thing out of Flare. And then these things over here are things that you can start with it in Flare. You can manage your content, but then you have to involve some other third-party applications. So these are possible uses. I say possible uses because it's not like this is the end-all, be-all. You could think of other uses for these little bits of micro content, but this is what most people are probably going to do, especially these things that work right out of the box. So lots of cool things you can do with micro content, but which outputs support this? All right, so for all the stuff that I just talked about and showed you, HTML5 output, that supports that, all of that stuff kind of across the board. The other outputs don't support most of that stuff. There's one exception, and that is the thing that I referred to before, the FAQ proxy, the thing that you can insert and use in topics. So you could create PDF output or Word output, and it'll generate this list of FAQs or whatever content you decide to put in there. It's drawing it from your micro content, and your Word or PDF outputs, it'll show it. All right. So that's just kind of the general rule of thumb. If you are using the FAQ proxy, that opens up the possibilities, but otherwise you're dealing with HTML5 output. Now, as we progress through this video series, we're going to spend a lot of the time going through those features that are similar to what you saw in the Google search results, those objects, micro content, populating those, both in search results and in your Flare topic output. And you're going to constantly hear lots of these terms, featured snippets, a knowledge panel, knowledge proxy, FAQ proxy, promotions proxy. All of these things, don't get caught up in the names of these things, is what I want to tell you. They all are very similar, but they do have some unique characteristics. And depending on what you want to do and the kind of content that you have, that's going to help you decide which of these things to use. But in the end, just think containers. Just think of those as containers. That's really what they are. They're containers holding your micro content in different places. Okay. In fact, when we were developing these things, trying to decide what to name all of these, I actually said, well, why don't we just call them container 1, container 2, container 3? Because that's what they are. And they go, Paul, that's why you don't work in marketing. And that's exactly right. I have no business being in marketing. But that's what they are. They're just containers. So an FAQ proxy may or may not contain FAQs. Or you might use a knowledge proxy to create FAQs. In fact, I'm going to do that later in this video series, and I'll explain why. So I hope that you can not fixate so much on the names of these things, but just think of them as containers, and hopefully I think that'll help you. just so that you have an idea of what's ahead of you, what we got going on here, I'm going to just give you a quick overview of the videos that are going to be following this one in the video series. We're going to begin by talking about actually just creating the micro content, the very basics of it, and the different methods that you can use. And I'll tell you what I recommend and things that I use. And then there's going to be several videos after that about these containers. And I would advise you to watch those in order, because I am showing different examples, but they all have kind of similar fields. And so I'm going to be pointing out things in these different videos, but it's not unique to, this proxy or that proxy, this feature or that feature. And so to get the full picture, I'd recommend that you watch them all and watch them in order, because one plays upon the other. I'm also going to do a video on skins and skin components that have to do with micro content, because it's not just creating this micro content and populating these containers. You're going to need to adjust it, and you're going to do this using skins and these little skin components. There's also a video on micro content and analytics, and I highly suggest you watch that one, because you got to decide what content do I create micro content for, and analytics is going to help inform you. You need to be able to see what your audience, what your end users are doing with your output. They'll tell you what you should create micro content for, because those search terms are going to float to the top. And if you have micro content for it, it's going to make their lives so much easier. There's also field level help. Going to talk about that. That is one of the uses for micro content that I mentioned. So that combines micro content and context sensitive help. And I'm going to explain how you put that together. There's also single sourcing. This isn't the exact order of these videos, but more or less it is. But I'm also going to do single sourcing. So what's that all about? Well, we found that people want their content to look a certain way when you open up the full topic, but maybe it looks differently when you open it up in the search results. For example, a set of steps, you might just want that condensed, not tell everybody all the stuff in between the steps. And so you can use different methods for single sourcing, so that you're not creating two groups of content. You're creating one group of content, but it's presented in one way in the full topic, in a different way in the micro content search results. All right. What else? There's also these advanced uses. I mentioned chatbots, things like that. Yeah, you can use Flare for those things using, by combining it with some third-party tools and applications. I am going to explain, if you want to do that, what you as a tech writer need to do, what your responsibility is to create this and in Flare, and then kind of throw it over the wall. And then what happens? Even though I'm not going to go through fully and show you how to create a chatbot, because I've never done that, but I understand how to create and manage the content, the micro content in Flare. And then I know in theory what's supposed to happen after that. And then finally, going to do a video on what the Madcap doc team does with micro content, because I just found that a lot of times it helps people to see a real world use case. What are you doing? What files do you have? How are you putting these things together? And so that will reiterate some of the things I talk about through this video series. And I'm just going to show you my project and the things that I'm doing in it. All right. So those are the next videos that are going to have several videos coming up after this one. All right. What else? What else is there to say? Well, I probably should have said it in the previous section when I was talking about videos, but all those videos I was talking about are at the end of this video. You just go to the very end and there's a playlist. And so you can just get right into the others. I also want to let you know that this video series, even though I'm talking about a whole bunch of stuff, it's not every nook and cranny having to deal with micro content. There are some things that I'm just not covering here, but it's documented in the online help, so you can check that out. And speaking of the online help, there's one more thing I want to tell you. If you go into the online help, come over here on the left to tutorials, scroll down, and you're going to see these tutorials on micro content, the basic one and the advanced one. And a lot of the information in this video is repeated there. It's just a different format. You're actually working through creating your own project. And so maybe it'll help you first to watch this video and hear it for the first time. And then I would recommend you go and do the tutorials. I know doing tutorials helps me because I just learn better as I'm actually creating these things. So I'll guide you through, and you're going to see and experience a lot of the same things in this video. So just wanted to let you know about that. All right. So we're going to continue our journey with micro content in Madcap Flare, and we're going to do that in the next video where we are going to get into the project and actually create some of this. So I'll see you in that video.